Hello, welcome to a special edition of Inside the Birds. Geoff Mosher alongside Adam Caplan and the Eagles. Hey, they got a big game coming up on Sunday. Divisional round matchup. Eagles versus Rams, 3 o'clock. Could be some snow in the forecast. So we thought we'd bring in a great guest to help us break this game down. You know who he is. He's Ross Tucker, host of the Ross Tucker podcast. You should follow him on social media at Ross Tucker NFL. And he's also involved with futurefans.com, which is by far the best way to get your kids to love and understand football. Ross, how do we get our kids to love and understand football?
Well, so first of all, finally I'm on this show.
No,
Finally,
you
I've
were
been
on
begging.
Super Bowl, Radio
I've
Row.
been
We had
begging.
you.
Oh, we did it Super Bowl. I couldn't remember. I
Yeah.
was gonna say, I feel like I've been begging both of you guys for
What did you
years
ask us
to come
ever?
on.
On your show?
And I immediately win best backdrop. I mean, Geoff just has like a plain wall. Adams is so terrible that he has like the fuzzy thing behind him. So you can't even
I'm in
see
my
behind him.
I'm in my office because my studio's over here and it's just a little bit easier for me to move. Anyway, go ahead.
So anyway, no, it's funny. I met these guys. Speaking of the Super Bowl, I met these guys at the Super Bowl last year, the Future Fans guys,
Cool.
and too late for me because my daughters are 11 and 12, and I think they kind of understand football. Maybe it's my failings. Maybe it's because I travel so much because I'm doing games, but they don't like really understand it. And I've come to the conclusion the only way your kids are going to actually sit there and watch every Eagles game with you is if they really actually understand football. So these guys, they're actually they're Bengals fans. Remember a few years ago when the Bengals went to the Super Bowl?
Yeah.
They couldn't, no matter how hard they tried, they couldn't get their kids to watch the Bengals. And they're like, no, you don't understand. We're the Bengals. This only
This
happens
don't happen
once
all
every
the time.
30 years. Sit your butt down and watch the and the kid was like, no, I don't know. So they literally came up with a whole, they're really smart guys. They came up with a whole business just to get like 3 or 4 year old to 10-year-olds to understand football. So it's a book, and you'll read a story that's like, something like a 5 or 6 year old would read. Then you go right to the activity, which is like ring toss, where you have 4 chances to get the thing you're trying to do. So it's like that's how they introduce the downs and the 10 yards and the whole deal. It's funny because I've talked to a bunch of people now because I was talking with these guys about investing or whatever. And so I had them have me connected with some actual, users. And they're like, dude, he watches every game with me now, or she watches every game with me now. So if you've ever had this issue, this is like a dad hack. I thought I played in the NFL, I'm a broadcaster, I'll just explain to them. I was not good at explaining the 5 and 6 and 7-year-olds how it works. This thing is way better. It's called futurefans.com. So if you know any kids, grandkids, nieces, nephews, at a minimum, check out futurefans.com. It's only $50. So probably be the best $50 ever spent if you can get your kid to sit there and watch every Eagles game with you for the next 30 years. It'd be amazing. Futurefans.com.
I was reading some of the reviews on futurefans.com, and it was really brilliant. The concept is brilliant because some of the reviews of the parents said, hey, I gave this to my 6-year-old or 7-year-old. They read it, and the next thing I saw was them drawing up plays on their on a sketchbook or something at the
Really?
breakfast table. Yeah, you should read the reviews.
Wow.
On futurefans.com. It's a phenomenal and brilliant idea. And Ross, we are kindred spirits. I have 2 daughters, 15 and 10, about to be 16 and 11. They both are excellent softball players. They love softball. And I can tell that they love the game. They're big Phillies fans for the simplicity of it because they cannot get into football no matter how much of my profession. And I find myself like, what do you mean you don't understand the 3 deep coverage of a fire zone blitz? And they're like, what? And I'm like, I've gone through this 5 times already with it. So it's a much more complex sport, as we all know, than say baseball or softball, which is like you position yourself here, or you might throw an 0-2 pitch outside on purpose, right? That's a little bit easier to understand. So thankfully, we have futurefans.com to do what we can't do, which is to put it in simpler terms to make kids really like.
And thankfully, we have Eagles playoff football
That's right.
to talk about as well, which is always a good thing. Very fired up for this game. It looks like there's going to be weather, fellas. Like,
Yeah.
it's going to be glorious, except for Elliott Shore Parks, who wants he wants to be in a dome. He doesn't want to have the snow and the fun on Sunday. It should be in a dome.
No, never. I am anti-dome. I don't like any of the domes. I listen. I like the one in New Orleans just because I think it's really the crowd is amazing there, and there's no elements in New Orleans anyway.
But
So
the
it doesn't
elements
matter.
are what makes football
I
different.
agree.
It's what
I
makes
agree.
football cool. Like there was nothing more fun in my childhood than when it snowed. Everybody in the neighborhood would get together. We would play football in the snow, and I was usually the biggest one, so I would take the other kids, push their face into the snow. It was amazing. Like their whole face would be wet and red. You know, sometimes they would cry. It was awesome. Like that's just good kid fun.
Sure. So that's actually a good way to start the key to the game here, right? First of all, you played for Buffalo, you played for New England, right? You played for cold weather teams, even in Washington.
Yeah.
I'm sure it got cold. Have you ever played professionally in a game involving snow? And where would you say the advantages lie or disadvantages in that kind of a game?
Not, believe it or not, not like a hard snow, which is
Mhm.
weird because I started a bunch of games in Buffalo in '03 and '04. I started a game at center against the Arizona Cardinals where we had freezing rain, which is by far the worst. Freezing rain is by far the worst. Inch side note, and Caplan will love this.
Yeah.
The only game of Larry Fitzgerald's career he didn't catch a pass.
Really?
Only game.
I didn't even know that. Yeah, I didn't know
Yeah,
that.
the only
Wow.
game, it was freezing rain in Buffalo, '04. I guess that was his rookie year, maybe his second year. My wife's two grandmas came and they're like, yeah, we're never coming to a game
It is the
ever
worst.
again.
It is the worst. Ross, let me ask you this question because I've heard it talking to players over the years. They generally don't like snow because of the unpredictability of their feet. Are they going to slip? So as a lineman, what's it like as a lineman to play in bad weather, just overall?
Well, so it's funny because what people think is they think you got to run the ball in snow, and you can at times because the defensive line, they can't, like if it's a thick snow, they can't get the traction to get off the ball, right?
Mhm.
But when you're trying to run block, you can't always either. But you got double teams. And so picture they're trying to like really brace and really put their feet in the ground. You might be able to just push them right out of there because they can't get the footing that they need. Or when the running back who knows where he's going, think of Shady McCoy against the Lions,
Yep.
he knows where he's going and he cuts it back. Good luck cutting it back. You know, good luck for the guys on defense, right? Because
Mhm.
they got to change direction in an instant. And that's a lot easier said than done if you don't know where you're going. You're reacting to someone else. It's funny. One of my first years done playing, I broadcasted a game, Patriots Titans.
Oh,
And
you
We
did?
just talked
You
about
brought
this
that up.
game.
crazy.
Yep.
Good.
It's really great. And I think Brady might have had 6 touchdown passes in the first half. I'm not exaggerating.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
And the Patriots realized, hey, with this bad footing, number one, the D lineman cannot get the get off to get any pressure on the quarterback. There's no get off. Number two, the DBs have to react to our movement, our receiver movement. So when our receivers make a break or cut in or out and they have to try to react to it, it's not easy. So I think it's a misnomer that you can't throw in the snow. I think that's more a wind thing than anything else. I think you can throw in the snow and you can throw potentially very effectively in the snow for the two reasons I just mentioned.
That's interesting. It's funny because Adam and I were just talking about that game that you just referenced. And to your Buffalo point, Adam and I also noted recently that with the Bills, it seems like it always snows before, the night before, and directly after a Bills playoff game, but very rarely does it snow like how many times do we see a Bills playoff game where it's actually snowing during the game? Maybe once or twice, but it's always right before and right after. And so it's not surprising that when you were with them, it didn't snow that much during an actual game. But I'm sure before and after you have probably had to fight through 7 or 8 inches on the way to the stadium.
Well, I remember some like flurries. I remember playing against Dartmouth in the snow actually in college,
Right. You
but
are a Princeton
never
man.
like a really thick snow. The thing about Buffalo is it hits you like that. Like
Mhm.
there's no snow, and then there's 6 inches in an hour, and you're like, what the heck
Lake
just happened? It's
Lake
crazy.
effect. Yeah.
Yep.
Russ, what do you think? Let's go from each team's vantage point. For the Eagles, What do they got to do to win this game? They've already beat the Rams once. We know this. Obviously, rematches always have a different personality. Adam and I were talking about 2008. The Eagles smoked the Arizona Cardinals on Thanksgiving after McNabb got benched the week before, came back, threw 3 touchdowns, and then they play in the NFC Championship game, and Arizona wins that game. So it's never apples to apples when there's a rematch game against a non-division opponent. So what is the key here for the Eagles this time?
Well, and the point I make about that is I don't know how much chess you guys have ever played in your life, but if you ever played chess, right?
Mm-hmm.
Any one piece being added or taken off the board changes the whole board. You know what I mean? So Havenstein didn't play for the Rams in the first game. And I think it was McClendon maybe started at right tackle.
Yeah.
Warren he
McClendon,
just got abused. I mean, he just got abused. I don't think that's going to happen with Havenstein. So it's very important to note every rematch, it's very rarely the exact same in the sport of football because you're probably going to have a couple pieces that you didn't and vice versa. You probably don't have a couple pieces that maybe you did. And that kind of changes the game plan, changes what teams say going into it. Clearly, the Eagles have gotten the better of the Rams up front the last 2 years, which is interesting. I think the Rams are pretty decent up front. You'd have to think that the Rams are going to sell out to stop Saquon in the run game. I know I would. That's exactly what I would do. So I would say that the key for the Eagles is probably that Jalen Hurts has to make the layups. You know what I mean? Like there's going to be some easy throws against man coverage with A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith. He's got to see it, ID it, and he's got to make those throws because what would you guys do if you played the Eagles? I mean, I know their receivers are fantastic, but if you go too deep safeties, you are going to die. It might be a slow death, but you're going to die, right? Eventually with the too deep safety. If you load the box and make Hurts beat you, you're probably still going to lose because he probably is. But if he's not playing well and your DBs are playing well and there's some drop, then you have a chance. Then you really have a chance. Basically, what the Packers did, I would say almost the whole game, certainly after that first couple drives when the Eagles were up 10-0, I thought the Packers arguably got the better of the action after that. And it was a lot of stopping the run and then trying to pressure and give Hurts different looks. Did not seem like he handled those very well.
Playoffs. We're talking about playoffs. You bet we are. Get in on the action at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. Scoring touchdowns is key to winning in the playoffs, and you can score big by betting on them at DraftKings, the #1 place to bet touchdowns. Ready to place your first bet? Try betting on something simple, like a player to score 6. Go to the DraftKings Sportsbook app and make your pick. Right now on the DraftKings Sportsbook app, the Eagles are plus 450 to win the Super Bowl. What do you say, Birds fans? New DraftKings customers can bet $5 to get $200 in bonus bets instantly. So download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code BIRDSPREGAME. That's code BIRDSPREGAME, all one word, for new customers to get $200 in bonus bets instantly when you bet just $5 only on DraftKings Sportsbook. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER in New York. Call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly on behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort. 21 plus age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/audio.
Ross, let me ask you this question. Since we have you on, your former lineman, you've seen so much of the Eagles over the last few years. What makes them so great when you watch them? Why are they so great? We know their performances are great, but what makes them so great?
Yeah, it's such a good question, Adam. And two things jump out. Because you guys know I was on the 6th crew for CBS this year, so I do games almost every week. Two things that need to be noted. Number one, they're absolute freaks of nature. You know what I mean? Like, I go to these other games that the Colts or the Titans or the Texans or the Patriots, whoever, the Arizona Cardinals, they don't really have guys that look like the Eagles guys. Like I don't think people understand. Mailata is probably 375, very little fat, moves extremely well. Landon is definitely over 350 because I was once 335 in my life. So Landon's definitely over 350, moves well. Becton, 345, 6'7, 345. Even Lane, 6'6, 335. Like all of these guys are total outliers on the height, weight, speed ratio. Now, Juergens is smaller, but he's a different kind of freak. He's like a Kelsey freak. So number one, they have 5 absolute athletic and physical phenoms starting. That's number one. Then number two, it's so funny because I literally was talking to Tom Brady, name drop, Tom Brady before the game on Sunday because I called the game for national radio with T-Mac, Tom McCarthy for Westwood One. And Brady and I were teammates. He's on the field before the game. And I'm watching before the game. This is like 2 hours before the game. No shoulder pads or anything on. Landon Dickerson and Mailata are out there on the field with Jeff Stoutland, and they're working on combo blocks. I've never seen that. Like, I've never seen 2 Pro Bowl caliber linemen, this is like pre-game warmups with the coach working combo blocks that they've done a zillion times together already. And Tom was like, yeah, people don't do that very often. I'm like, I've never seen that. Like that, like, wow. I've seen Stoutland do that with like practice squad guys or guys that are going to be inactive for the game. But the Pro Bowl left guard and left tackle to be out there running combo blocks together, Stoutland is relentless in his pursuit of those guys being as good as they can possibly be. So you have the perfect marriage of the most physically gifted offensive line in the NFL by far, and a very demanding stickler for details coach.
Wow. Good stuff there, Ross. Great breakdown. I want to go back to your chess point real quick and the last question here, because to your point on things change when you take one piece off, McClendon, Havenstein, the guy who gave McClendon his work that day, that game, was Brandon Graham.
BG.
No longer part of, not able to play with the injury. And now you have also a rotating carousel here, maybe opposite Zach Bond at linebacker with Oren Burks and potentially Jeremiah Jr. Great for JT Jr., but in general, in a playoff game, how difficult is that to start substituting linebackers and playing them in different packages?
Well, 2 great points, Geoff. First of all, it is funny that arguably one of the key matchups was BG against McClendon, and neither one of them will be playing in this game, right? Which is a perfect example of what we're talking about. I will say this, Nolan Smith is really coming on, guys, this last month of the season. I mean, you guys know because you watch every Eagle snap. I think Nolan played most of the last preseason game this year.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like,
there's a reason
the
for
Patriots,
it.
which you're certainly not expecting, or I guess, the last preseason was against the Vikings. You're certainly not expecting that to be the case with a first-round pick. I think Jalix Hunt, like, maybe got the day off, but Nolan Smith didn't, which says something about something. What I love about Nolan Smith, first of all, his personality is amazing, lights up the room. Secondly, Energizer Bunny. Third, they list him at 235. I don't know what he weighs. I'm going to try to find out. He is physical. I mean, Elton Jenkins pulled and he went and bam, he attacked that thing, hit them before they hit you. And that set the tone. You go back and watch that play. Nakobe Dean destroyed, I think it was Tucker Kraft wrapping around. Like, the Eagles set the freaking tone on the first play, which is what they're going to have to do in this game as well. I think that Sean McVay is going to do anything and everything possible to try to attack the linebacker opposite Bond, right? So he's spent all Tuesday morning, Wednesday, studying the Eagles formations, the Eagles defense. Everything he does, not everything, but I think a large part of what he does is going to be to try to get Oren Burks and Trotter in coverage, whether it's man or zone, and try to take advantage of it. Like, this is the NFL. If you have a weak link, that's what they're going to attack. Trust me, I know it. My first start for Buffalo in 2003, the first 3rd and long of the game, against the Giants, Strahan slid down over me. That means they had targeted me as the guy. I was like, oh no. I was like, this is gonna be a terrible day.
Wait a minute. Right before when you saw him slide, hang on. When you saw him slide over, you're like, did you say, oh shit? Excuse my language, but
I don't know what I said, but in my head I said, oh, you know what? I was like,
no.
oh my God.
Because
they want to put their best rusher on the worst guy on the offensive line. And I was like, oh God, they identified I'm the guy. So anyway, that's what McVay will do, no question.
That's an inside football right there. Good job.
That is. Listen, man, your wisdom is understated only by your humility, Ross. That was fantastic. Before we get you out of here, want to give us a quick prediction?
Sure. Yeah. So first of all, you guys should have me on more often. You guys are killing it. I love the show. I see it on social all the time.
Thank you.
And by the way, I do 3 or 4 days a week. I'll do a social post just talking about the Eagles in a minute or less. It's called the Ross Report. So follow me at Ross Tucker NFL. Literally a minute or less. Just kind of my thoughts. And I already did the prediction there. I'll say this. It would be an all-time impressive win for the Rams if they win this game. I mean, think about everything that they went through for the Monday night game, right? All of the fire stuff, the wildfire stuff. They have to travel to play at Arizona. They're representing their city. They're representing all those people, the fire department. They put a lot into that game on Monday night. Probably got back from Arizona, 2 a.m., short week, coming out to the East Coast. Now there's weather.
Yeah.
The Eagles are a more talented team. They are definitely good enough to win the game. The Rams are.
Mm-hmm.
But if they do, I mean, Caplan's a history guy, but that'll be up there in my mind in terms of one of the more impressive divisional round upsets. It can happen, but I think they're going to have to play extremely well, and the Eagles have to play poorly. I don't see that happening. Yep. I'm going to go 23-17 Eagles. However, there's a very real chance with everything I just said to you that the Rams run out of gas in the second half of this game or the fourth quarter. And maybe this week when the hole opens up, maybe Saquon takes it all the way. So 23-17, but it might not be that close.
One thing I would add, Ross, I remember talking to the Vikings after they lost here in Philly in the championship game at 17. They felt the miracle in Minneapolis, whatever you want to call it, that crazy comeback against the Saints. They felt like they had no juice left. They to come back as a player, Ross. Before we get out of here, I don't, or if you've talked to players about something like this because you just outlined it. I don't know how you get. I just don't know how. Yes, you play a game the next week. You got to be ready, but mentally, how do you just put it behind and go? Okay, got to get our energy up again. Mentally, how does that happen? Like, what do you do it? Like, how do you get yourself ready for that?
Well, there's a bunch of days in between, so you should be able to. And I know people say, "Oh, it's only 17 games." It's just hard to explain. It's hard to get yourself to that same fevered pitch week in, week out. Yep. It felt like the Rams were at a 10 on Monday night. I don't know if they're going to be able to get there. They better get off to a fast start or it could get ugly. And you'll even see that. I mean, we'll see what happens with the Texans and the Commanders, but there's just something there after a team has won their big game for the year. They they maybe did something that people weren't expecting. Sometimes they go on a run. The Jags in, a couple times, 2017 and 96 or whatever, but not always. Gotcha. I think it's just hard to reach that level again, whereas the link is going to be absolutely rocking for the Rams. Good luck to the Rams. I can say that much.
Mm-hmm. There you go. All right, Ross, we will definitely have you on again, and maybe as soon as 2 weeks on Radio Row if things work out for Philadelphia Eagles. Again, he is the host of the Ross Tucker podcast. You should follow him on social media at Ross Tucker NFL, and please check out futurefans.com.
Yeah, that thing's awesome. That thing's awesome. It really is. I have one. If you have young kids, it's a no-brainer. Why not give it a shot to try to make them football lovers and understand it? They figured out a way to explain it a heck of a lot better than I can. It's literally my job to explain football. And this thing, Future Fans, is better than me.
Hey, Michael Jordan was not a very good owner. What are you going to do?
Hey, there you go, Mosher. There you go.
Futurefans.com. Again, Ross Tucker, thanks for joining us. For Ross Tucker and Adam Caplan, I'm Geoff Mosher. You've been watching a special edition of Inside the Birds.